That season, I played rugby, all carnivore, never ate a carb. I haven't eaten a vegetable since. I wet my bed until I was 9 years old, had stomach issues in fourth grade. By the time I got to high school, I had horrible diarrhea problems. Before, I was starving all the time. Resting heart rate actually went down when I did carnivore. I started remembering some of my friends and my teachers' names and events that I haven't remembered ever in my life. And I'm like, what the heck is happening to me? It was mental clarity. I can only say it was carnivore because I've never had it in my life until I went carnivore. You should be able to play with your grandkids. You should be able to play wiffle ball in the backyard and climb and go for hikes. And at 80 years old, still get in and out of your car without a walker. This is insane. We're the sickest nation. We keep getting sicker. And this is becoming an epidemic in our kids.
All right, I'm here with Dr. Aaron Tressler, who's going to chat with us a bit. Aaron, tell us what you do, just as a way of background.
My short story here to begin. I'm a chiropractor. I've been doing this 30 years, and I moved to a farmhouse about 11 years ago where we have about 15 cows, 40 sheep, 3 goats, 50 chickens, and 2 emus. So I do that in my spare time. And I still play rugby. I'm 58, just turned 58, and that's my way of having fun and getting rid of
Where did you go to
stress.
chiropractic college, out of curiosity?
I went to Life University in Georgia.
There you go. That's why the rugby.
Yeah, where one of your guys, Paul McCartney, I think he owned the gym out in Texas where he
Did you ever know Paul?
Yeah, we played together at Life.
Okay.
Good. He's a friend of mine.
Was he a scrum half back then too, or what was he doing?
I was a scrum half. He was the wing. He was fast. I was small, so I had to figure it out. Yeah,
Life has a heck of a rugby program. I don't know if they still do, but I know back when I was doing it, a lot of guys they had a good team for sure. That's interesting. Yeah, Paul McCartney, not of the Beatles. Yeah, he was one of the guys that originally got me into rugby. It's funny. I was in medical school and I was working out at his gym. It was called Sergeant Rock's Gym. And he said, "Hey, man, if you want to keep working out at my gym, you need to come play rugby for us." You joke him. I said, "Oh, what the hell? I'll give it a try." And then, I had some level of success there and played for a number of years. But you're still playing. That's good for you, man. That's awesome. So
still playing.
That's pretty impressive. And you said 58, right?
58.
Yeah, I'm 57. I'm not playing rugby. I'm still training hard and doing sports, but sometimes it'd be fun to run down there and stiff arm somebody, take out some frustration and that type of stuff. So
you're the big guy. You could stiff arm them. I try to move and juke and not get hit by you guys.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, that's like the Maori sidestep we used to call it, where you just knee somebody in the face as they try to tackle you. I learned that when I went to New Zealand. It was like they taught me that the ear canal a cleat fits perfectly in your ear canal. So you try to ruck somebody's face. Anyway, we can talk about rugby for a while, but interesting World Cup this year, by the way. It was a pretty spectacular South Africa, New Zealand one, which is Clash of the Titans for sure. Let's get back to what people care about. Like I said, so you've been chiropractic, you played rugby, still active athlete, which is phenomenal. What prompted you to start a farm?
We wanted land. And we kept looking for land, and I had no idea I wanted animals. Never had an animal in my life besides a dog. We moved out to a house we found land on, and it had about 65 acres. 40 of it was fenced in for animals. We thought, heck, my daughter wanted a lamb, so we started with 3 lambs, and next thing we have 100 and some animals right now.
What part of the country are you in, by the way?
We're outside of Pittsburgh, about 45 minutes east of Pittsburgh. Nice, quiet area, and I love it. It's fun. It takes up a lot of my time, rugby, training, family, and farm. But it provides all my meat, all my eggs, all my beef, my lamb. So with the whole carnivore thing that kicked in, this is a beautiful thing.
So are you actively practicing the carnivore diet as well now? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, my story is pretty cool once we get into that. But been doing it about a year and a half, and I can't imagine ever changing or going back.
Yeah, I'm in my 8th year, and literally this month I'm eating nothing but beef, salt, and water. And I feel like I can run through a damn brick wall right now. It's pretty damn amazing how good you can feel on this for some people, for sure. What, with regard to your chiropractic career, did you have a particular focus? Because I know there's different sort of disciplines within chiropractic and different sort of ailments that people treat. How would you describe your practice or what you believe?
I'm more correction-based, family-based. And it was something that I didn't grow up with. When I was a kid, I wet my bed until I was 9 years old, had stomach issues in fourth grade. By the time I got to high school, I had just horrible diarrhea problems. And it was an IBS type situation. And back then we never went to the doctor. If I got hurt, my mom would put my head under the sink, run the blood off, and push me out of the house. And one day I bent over to get wood to bring in the house, and my back just lit up on me. It froze. I dropped to the ground. I was crying, and never cried in front of my dad. And a buddy of mine went to a chiropractor, and he said, maybe go to the chiropractor. So we went. He adjusted me, but didn't explain anything. So I didn't know what he did. He was adjusting me. I'm hearing all this stuff snap and pop. I get off the table, and he says to me, Aaron, if you're in pain next week, come on back. Mr. Tressler, if your son's in pain, bring him back. I didn't have pain for 5 years in my low back, but I stayed sick. And a turning point in my life was when my dad turned 50, shortly after he had a heart attack and died. And he had heart problems leading up to it with drugs, surgery, told all the wrong diet things. We had margarine in our house. We replaced butter with margarine and just got off meat, didn't exercise, all the wrong advice. And I was a phys ed studying physical education. I graduated, started teaching down in Florida where I started playing rugby, and my back did it again to me. And here I am, I'm a phys ed teacher, fitness instructor in the gym, working out, playing rugby 7 days a week, training, and my back does it again. And I went to an MD. He said, I need to stretch and do some ab work and take pills. And it didn't make sense. And I thought, there has to be something more. Went to a chiropractor, he took an x-ray. And this was a turning point in my life. And this kind of projected my career and what I do is the x-ray showed a big imbalance in my pelvis, my right SI joint down on my right side of my low back. I started getting that corrected. Not only my pain went away, but I started seeing physical changes. I wanted to go to chiropractic school. So I chose Life because it had the best rugby program and it was South. So I thought, this is great. Within a few months of adjusting, all my digestion problems went away. I had sinus and allergy problems. So we know that when you have GI problems, gut problems, you have immune problems and a lot of sinus and allergy problems. Everything cleared up. And I thought, this is what they were talking about at chiropractic school. And I thought, is this for real? Is this going to last? It's lasted for 36 years. And I haven't been sick like that since. And chiropractic allows me to continue playing rugby and doing what I do. So that got me into correction care based on x-ray, looking at trying to restore the alignment the best we can and keep it that way. And obviously lifestyle, exercise and diet have a big part of that. And I have some other stories along with that with my carnivore, but that's what got me to that point, which then I've been doing for the last 30 years.
Yeah. One thing for sure I've seen among folks that practice chiropractic medicine is that many of them, in fact, most of them are interested in some more lifestyle-based stuff. Whereas as an orthopedic surgeon, allopathic guy, that was, we gave it lip service a little bit, but there was no real teeth in what we were doing. It was just all, yeah, we'll tell you to eat healthy and exercise more. We don't really facilitate it. And then when that doesn't work, because if you don't facilitate, it doesn't work, then we'll do a procedure on and get paid. How did you, let me ask you this question, I'm still interested in this. At 58, still playing around, who do you play for? What team are you playing for? And how many guys running around playing, or 58 are still playing? It can't be that many.
I'm the gray-haired guy. It's the Greensburg Maulers. So it's a local team. We play against Pittsburgh, Erie, Cleveland. We travel a little bit. It's a D3 squad, so it's still very competitive. Most of the guys are between 20-something and 35. So it's funny. We were playing in a tournament. I went out to do the ball exchange and coin toss, and we were playing against a college team, and the kid looks at me and goes, "Hey, what's up, Gramps?" I'm like, all right. All that does is fuel my fire. So I scored the first try, and I still kicked. So I kicked the point. I looked at him and just gave him a smile, and you son of a gun. But those kind of things fuel me. So
yeah, it's funny. I was playing a team up in Wyoming, the Air Force, local Air Force. We had a team. We had this guy. His name was Major Lyman Faith. Old country boy. I think he was from Georgia. In fact, he was an old country boy. And we were playing the University of Washington. And some kid like got up in his face. He said, "Son, sit down. I got stuff in my refrigerator older than you." It was just a funny exchange. I remember that. But well, good for you. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I do jujitsu, and I usually roll against guys in their 20s and 30s, and I'm usually 30 years older than half the guys in there. Same sort of deal. But let me just delve into nutrition a little bit, because what prompted you to undergo a carnivore diet? Because even in 2024, although it is growing tremendously, it's still considered really out there.
About 8-9 years ago, I was riding my bike and my tire came off, and I ended up going straight down on the pavement about 30 miles an hour and fractured my scapula, pretty serious. Prognosis didn't look good. And I said, you know what? I'm going to return and I'm going to play rugby again. Everyone thought I was crazy. I got in shape. I healed from that through chiropractic care, my own therapy, and eating right. I wasn't doing carnivore then. So what happened was I continued playing. A year and a half ago, I'm on vacation. And you have to understand, when we were taught at Life, I did a lot of nutrition. I went to a lot of nutrition seminars over the last 30 years. Everything is plant-based. Everything is eat plants. It was back in chiropractic school, we were told to eat soy, go to soy burgers and all that stuff. So I went through that era. I got a juicer. We drink clean water. So I've practiced healthy eating the best I could for the past 30 some years. But it was all based on this plant-based type diet. When meat was a part of it, I always thought meat was good, but minimal. So I'm on vacation, and the first 3 days of vacation, I am dying it with neck pain. My shoulder hurts, my neck hurts, my back hurts. And I thought, I wonder why my neck is flaring up, where the side of my neck where my scapula was fractured. And I switched to the different bed. But before I went on vacation, I was looking at these carnivore type diets, and I was reading some books, and I interviewed Tim Noakes. I had a podcast. I interviewed Tim Noakes and Belinda Fettke. And this kind of got my wheel spinning probably 6 months prior. And I'm investigating this patient. Before I went on vacation, he looked at me and he says, "Doc," he goes, "you've got to listen to Dr. Shafee." And I know you and Dr. Shafee, you got both rugby guys, and I have been following both of you since then. He goes, "The guy's crazy. All he eats is meat and he drinks water." And I said, I'm going to listen to that. So I'm listening to you and Dr. Shafee in the podcast on the beach. I'm sitting on the beach. I'm always learning. So I'm listening to these podcasts, carnivore, and my shoulder is killing me. I'm like, this is crazy. And I thought, it has to be inflammation. So day 3, I look at my wife and I say, "Hun, I'm eating meat all day." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, she goes, "What are you going to eat?" I said, "I don't know. Just buy a bunch of hamburger. I'll just eat that all day." So for the next 3 days, all I ate was hamburger. I don't know what else. But the third day, I wake up and all the inflammation was gone. I felt like a brand new guy. I felt like I just went back 10 years. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, this is inflammatory. Holy cow. So I said, they go, "Are you going to stay on this?" I said, "You're crazy if I'm getting off it." So I stayed on it. So I started to heal, felt better, came back. That season, I played rugby, all carnivore, never ate a carb, never ate a piece of bread, I haven't eaten a vegetable since. And not only my performance went up, my healing went up, but what I noticed within about 30 days, I was about 175. My belly fat disappeared. And the first time in my life, Shawn, and you have to understand, I've been an athlete since I could walk. I've always trained. I've always been a skinny kid, but I had this carbohydrate belly, so you could never see my abs. For the first time in my life, you could start to see my abs. And I was 56, 57 years old. I'm like, this is insane. So that kicked that in, and I said, you know what? I am not going back. So that's been the start of something I think amazing. And I'm teaching this to my patients and my voice in my office. They think I'm crazy anyhow, still playing rugby, but the whole carnivore thing, they just laugh. They're like, "Are you sure that's healthy, Doc?" And I've never felt better in my life.
Yeah, you certainly aren't the first person I've heard say that, but I'm particularly, rugby is obviously a demanding sport, and you're playing. Are you still playing scrum half? I'm
playing fly half now.
Fly half. Still, you're very active out there. And how was your performance? Some people say you got to have carbs to perform. A sport like rugby, my gosh, how did you do?
When I interviewed Professor Tim Noakes, and he was the one that launched the whole carb up before. I did that for years, and I started running marathons. I did some ultra marathons. That's just not my thing. Rugby is. So when I came back, I was training. I always train. I have a workout in the bottom of my barn. I train hard every day, do a lot of sprint work. And I felt good. And I thought, you know what? This is going to be the test. Playing an 80-minute match, and I refuse to go out and let somebody else take my spot. If I'm playing, I'm going to play 80 minutes. And I thought, can I do this? Will this really work? And I did it. And since then, I've done it every time without a single carb. I used to eat this carb protein type breakfast before, and I would load up on carbs because physically, mentally, I thought I needed it. I didn't need it. And what was interesting, I think it was last season, my daughter came home from California. She was watching me play. And at the end of the game, I'm still juking. And these guys are 25 years old. And I'm still making cuts and gaining yard down the field. And she goes, Dad, what the heck are you doing? And I said, it's carnivore, I'm telling you, because I didn't change anything else. I've trained my whole life. I train hard mentally and physically. I just got rid of the carbs. And I still could go 80 minutes. And if you've ever watched a rugby game, you're running, sprinting, and getting killed. And they see me, because I'm only 165. They see me with gray hair playing fly half. And they're like, we're going to kill this guy. And I refuse to. So I can still do it.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I went carnivore, I was at the time I was competing in rowing, and I'm about to set a bunch more world records on the damn thing. But I knew exactly what my output was because I was measuring it very precisely against this rowing machine, this Concept 2, which was very unforgiving and it's very objective. And I saw that my power output went up about 8% going from non-carnivore to carnivore, which I was already at an American record level, and going up 8% beyond that's truly a big boost that I got. And yeah, I know there's people saying, no, you need carbs, you need this stuff, but gosh, it doesn't seem to matter for me. Any downsides? Have you had any, obviously the social stigma, you're a weirdo type of stuff, but have you had any physical or any kind of health downside since you transitioned over?
Nothing. I just have to have a lot of toothpicks.
That is one
That's
thing.
the only thing. No, there really hasn't. It's an emotional battle at times, like where you want to carve. And we have we have an orchard with apples and peaches and things like that. So this summer it was interesting when the harvest came and I was eating some apples. I'd eat maybe one a day. And I found when I was eating the fruit, and it was all organic fruit, I would crave the fruit and I would crave the carbs. And I was excited when all the trees were done and it was over because it was very tempting. No, I haven't seen any downside. And the thing that I use so I don't look so crazy is when I'm playing rugby and I'm fit and I'm still healthy and I can do more than most 30-year-olds, when my patients or even guys on the rugby team, they know he must be doing something good and he won't do anything that harms him. So this has to be good, and they have to question it. And when I dive into when I was listening to you on the podcast, I was listening to hours a day. I went home, I bought your book, and the first thing that I noticed, and I call this a downside or whatever, I was getting up at 3 a.m. and I was wide awake. I'm like, what the heck is this doing to me? And for a few weeks, this happened. So I would have your book on my porch. I'm reading your book, highlighting everything, making sense. And I read through about 8 or 9 books. The science of it is irrefutable. And the science has been there for a long time with sugar and cancer and sugar and disease and just not only how we look and lose weight, but just function and healing. The science is there. They cover it up. The pharmaceutical industries, the food industries, they cover this stuff up. And besides the downside of my body was adjusting and I was getting up, and I still get up pretty early. I go to bed early and I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, work out, do my farm work, and then go off to the office. There hasn't been any downside. A patient asked me yesterday, she goes, I'm thinking of going on a fast. And she's really involved in her health. I said, why? She goes, well, I want to defend cancer. And I said, I'm carnivore? She goes, yeah, I heard that. I said, why don't you just eat meat? I said, because sugar feeds cancer. You don't even have to fast. Just do that. And the first question is, and this is what everyone asks, what about your cholesterol? And my overall cholesterol, when I read the book Cholesterol Myth, and I did that triglycerides to HDL ratio, my ratio went from 2.6 to 1.4 when I went on the carnivore diet. My resting heart rate has been 53 over the last year. So the whole cholesterol thing, and I told her, I said, it's a myth. I said, no. I said, but I'm healthy. So I did a workshop in my office and I have it on my website. And I said, go look at that. It's a 30, 40-minute workshop. It has a lot of your information. a lot of the science behind it. And so I think at that point they look and go, okay, you're not crazy. I haven't seen any downside besides just people just don't believe. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I hope to get across as I move forward to not only my patients community is, hey, this stuff is for real. And this stuff is scientifically proven. It's the best diet, and we should be eating meat.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is clearly more and more people are getting. I do consultations. And last week I had a colorectal surgeon and a cardiologist, both like, carnivore's a deal. We've been all lied to, basically. So more and more physicians and healthcare providers of various, types are waking up to this stuff.
Yeah.
And let me ask you, obviously, you being the oldest guy on a rugby team is still getting after it. Are any of the other guys, let me try this carnivore thing? Have you been able to influence any of your teammates?
Yeah, there have been a few. They saw me do it. And next thing, 2 or 3 of the guys said, hey, we're doing carnivore. Well, the one guy lost like 30 pounds. He's a hooker, so he needs some weight on him. And I said, well, don't lose too much. But he goes, I just can't keep it off. It's pretty easy to lose weight. So it's a small influence. Even with chiropractic, they asked me, how are you still doing this? And I said, the big 3, chiropractic, keeping my alignment, my nerve system functioning, my movement of all my joints. I exercise like crazy and I eat very clean. And I said the carnivore thing. And I think one of the biggest, problems out there today is people are trying to get healthy, but they're looking at these small things. They're looking at, I'll do intermittent fasting. And I did that. Saw no results on it. I stopped drinking about 5 years. I didn't lose any weight when I stopped drinking. And that's all, beer is all carbs and sugar. It was when I got rid of the overall carbs and just went pure carnivore. But they do grounding. And I do a lot of this stuff. I jump in my ice tubs and I go outside in the cold with my cows without a shirt on. And they're trying to get these small things in life to make a big change instead of doing what it takes, changing the diet. And every time I say it, now you may notice this too, I'll say, just eat meat. And they're like, because they have to give up the sugars. But it was about 3 days. Most people take about 3 to 7. I don't know what, but 3 to 7 days, all of a sudden the carb craving's gone, especially when you're eating enough fat. So like my diet today, I had probably about 10 pieces of bacon, 6 of my own eggs, and I'll be good until dinner time. And I have a big pot roast in the crock pot to eat at night. Yeah, it's the way to go. And when you get enough fat and meat, you're not hungry. You feel great. And I think the more I do it, and my goal is to hit 60, at least hit 60 and still play. And that's only two and a half years away. And I'm like, I'll be fine. I can do this. And then like, then what? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll go to 65 or maybe I'll just do masters at that point. Who knows? But I think the more I do, and if we become examples, just like you're doing and Dr. Shafee and a lot of people are doing, that example, I think, oversteps just word. Because there's a lot of people out there talking, but they're not walking. And I give you and Dr. Shafee, it's two guys I mainly listen to, a lot of credit. This is a lot of work to do, and it's a lot of work to put on. But it has changed my life. You guys listening to your podcast, reading your book, changed my life, changed my family. My daughter, who just had her first baby, she did not all carnivore, but she did more carnivore through pregnancy. My grandkids are starting to suck on big bones at dinner time when they're babies. I'm like, I'm loving it. This is great. So it's an influence. And I think the better I stay, the more I'm going to influence.
Yeah, there is obviously, I guess I didn't realize chiropractic had gone so plant-based. I guess that's a general push across the board, across all medical specialties. That's being, I think, forced upon people in a way. And so you mentioned bacon and eggs and then some kind of pot roast for dinner. Is that typical for your diet? Are you typically eating twice a day and that type of stuff?
That was something that when I started this, my recommendation, when I tell my patients, they ask me, what's the first thing to do? I said, just eat as much as you want all day long. Eat all the meat you want because you want to be satisfied so you're not craving. That helped me. I was probably eating 5 times a day, meat. Typically now I eat 2, maybe 3 times a day. If I'm hungry, I eat. I don't care. When I eat a lot of fat in the morning, like a lot of bacon, I'm not hungry during lunch. I just bypass lunch, go to dinner. And like last night I had a T-bone, 1.5 T-bones, and some pork grinds to munch on before bed. And that was it. So 2 meals for me is usually good. And what's crazy is I had to force myself to do the intermittent fasting before. It was a challenge, a struggle. I would get up, I wouldn't eat breakfast. I would think about food all morning long until I could eat at lunchtime or at 2:00. And I dreaded it. Now, if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. I go out, I work out, do my farm work. And then when I come in, if I'm hungry, I eat. So it's a pretty simple life if you're eating the right things.
Initially, you said your wife was like, you're just going to eat ground beef. What is she thinking these days now that you're been more than a year doing this stuff?
It's funny. We used to have a garden and we had it this year, and she planted just basic stuff. We don't have a big garden. And the kids looked at her and they said, Mom, why did you do a garden? She goes, I didn't think your father was going to be on this long because I'm always trying new things. And all of my family eats more meat now. They're not carnivore, but they eat more meat. I don't know if she could argue with me in a sense, because I can still do what I did 30 years ago with pull-ups, with working out and ab work, and my physique is good. And I'm still proving that, hey, this is working. So I think they're all seeing this might be the real deal, something bigger than what I've ever done before. Because we were eating soy products when the kids were little. And I look back and I apologize to my kids. I'm like, I'm so sorry I put you on that crap, that poison.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like you said, as someone who has been very obviously concerned about your health and takes it very seriously and has tried a number of things, how impactful has a carnivore diet been relative to other things you've tried, particularly nutritionally?
Oh my gosh, night and day. One, because I'm still getting older. I have my strength, my physical body, my ability to play rugby and so forth. But the biggest thing it's done is it satisfies me. I am completely satisfied eating meat and fat. And before, I was starving all the time. My diet, I would have protein drinks once or twice a day. I would have protein bars. I would have nut bars. I would have almonds. and I would be eating and grazing all day because I was starving. And then when I'd get home, I would have to struggle to not eat carbs, because once you get carbs in your body, it's like a stimulus. It just keeps firing. Now, like this morning, I had my bacon and eggs. I'll be fine until dinner. I won't even really think about food. That peace of mind, emotionally and chemically, is amazing, because I had to force myself to. I hated fasting. My wife did a fast like 9-10 days before, just water fast. I'm like, I know the benefits. I can't do it. I think about food too much. But I could intermittent fast, and that drove me nuts. So the peace of mind and the satisfaction, the satiety, has been absolutely incredible, and I look at it now as I'm finally getting the nutrients that I needed all those years.
Yeah, one thing I've commented on fasting or intermittent fasting is if you're going to do that, and I think can be potentially some benefits to not eating all the time, not constantly grazing, the diet itself should lend that naturally. It shouldn't be forced. And That's what I found with carnivore is, it's super easy. If somebody said, hey, you can't eat tomorrow, I'd be okay. I can deal with that because I'm okay with that. And I very often, like, it's 9:30 a.m. where I am. I only had one meal yesterday. Now that I realized I didn't feel like eating dinner yesterday. So I'll be 24 hours and I'm good. I'm going to eat it. I'll be eating an hour and a half. I've got a ribeye and a New York cooking right now in the sous vide. But it's easy. It doesn't require any sort of, like you said, super willpower to do it. It's just, I'm not even that hungry, so I'm fine. And what I found is when I'm training really, really hard, my appetite goes through the roof and I just eat. It just works like it's supposed to. But when before, like, I was a big guy. At one point in my life, I was over 300, and man, there was no point that I wouldn't eat. It was just like between surgical cases, between clinic, I'm in there, break room, cramming down whatever's in there, cake, cookies, ice cream, donuts, and plenty of good food. Still ate a lot of meat and I ate a lot of vegetables and things like that, but I was just eating constantly because walking around 300 pounds, you're hungry a lot. Yeah. And now I'm 265-ish right now. Now I'm like, I don't even need to eat at all some days, it seems. I like to eat. I'm not a guy that likes to fast either. I'm like, people say, you should do a 48-hour fast. I'm like, no, thank you. No, I did that one time where I interviewed this snake diet guy, and he said, you got to do a 48-hour fast. I said, what do you got to do? And he says, eat the food you would normally eat in 2 days in one meal. And for me, that's 8 pounds. So I literally crammed down 8 pounds of food in my gullet in one meal. And then I felt like a friggin' snake that swallowed a damn goat. I couldn't move, man. I was like laying on the couch miserable. And then I didn't eat for 2 days. But that was, I don't enjoy that. There's just no way I would ever do that again. So it's crazy with that. What has been, of the conditions you treat, and I'm not sure which, I'm sure you see a lot of musculoskeletal back pain and things like that. What percentage of those people get nutrition advice, and how many percentage of them actually bother to do it?
It's tough because they're not coming here for nutrition advice. And we try to encourage, that's why I do the workshops and I record them. I put them on my website. We promote these things like this podcast here. I'll send it to all my patients and I'll tell them, look, you got to listen to this. I've been promoting Carnivore podcasts and books for the last year and a half, but people are reluctant to change. They come here based on some type of ache or ailment. But what we do see is their body starts to change. Like my GI system, once I got my nerve system controlled in alignment, those nerves in my low back that control my gut were functioning better. And I started healing even without dietary changes. So sometimes when that happens, they feel like, okay, I don't have to change my diet. It's an overall thing. And I think the biggest thing is, if they don't have a desire, this is where people succeed. If they don't have a desire to be optimally well, to knock it out of the park, they're not going to change their belief. They're not going to study and train and get the knowledge, and they're not going to take action. So they'll do just enough to satisfy that. And that's been the biggest barrier, is trying to get people to take on life and say, you know what, I want to be the best. And I tell them, look, you don't have to play rugby. Maybe this looks crazy to you, but you should be able to play with your grandkids. You should be able to play wiffle ball in the backyard and climb and go for hikes, and at 80 years old still get in and out of your car without a walker. This is insane. We're the sickest nation. We keep getting sicker, and this is becoming an epidemic in our kids. Our kids are on more medications. The whole tech neck thing with the phones and the computers, their posture is horrible. Their neck is horrible. We're seeing more kids with headaches, 2 to 3 headaches a week, and they're 10 years old. Or GI problems. And it's become common to be sick. And even though it's not normal, it's become common. And that's the barrier. If we can get through to their head and we can get through to their belief system, and they see this as, you know what, I want to be healthy, they start going down that path. They listen to my workshops, they start reading some books, and they start engaging in a healthier lifestyle. So I wish it would be 100%. I wish everyone wanted it. And we just recently bought a 20,000 square foot facility that I'll be moving here in about a month. And one of the questions, and anyone listening out there, and I don't know if you have any advice on this, is we want to be able to teach carnivore type lifestyle diet at this facility, because we're going to have a lot of room. And I'm like, how do we do this? Because I don't have the time. I'm so busy with chiropractic. I don't have the time, but we do workshops, and I don't want to have an MD doing blood work because I don't want to get into that stuff. But how can we get this thinking? Because it's just a way of eating. It's just a way of life into their skull, into their brain to make that transfer. If I figure that out, or if anyone's figured that out, let me know, because it's working. A lot of people are changing their diet, but not the majority.
As you mentioned, in order to make a change, most people need some sort of pain point. If you got a rock in your shoe, yeah, you'll take your shoe off and take it out of there. And that may be all you do. And so it is tough to motivate. I'm very fortunate that everybody I see comes to me knowing what they're going to get. They want to make the change. And so it's different when you see all comers and only 5% of them are interested in doing anything other than, here, give me my pill, do my adjustment, whatever you're going to do for them. So that becomes challenging. And as you point out, I ran into the same thing as a surgeon. My clinic, I didn't have time to do lifestyle nutrition discussion. I was in there, I saw 50 patients a day. You got 5 minutes sometimes, and it's just not enough time. And so I was handing out flyers, and watch these videos and go read these books, same sort of deal. And I think that one thing that is helpful is putting on seminars where you can bring, hey, if you're interested to really get healthy, come on to my little talk on whatever, Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the whatever. That's probably going to be at the local level. That's probably as effective as you're going to get. It's nice if you have someone that can hold their hand and support them, because a lot of these people need support. It's for guys like you or me say, hey, go do this. And you're like, okay, good. I'm self-motivated. I'm disciplined. I can do it. There's a lot of people that aren't that way, and they need constant feedback and more resources and have a lot more questions and things like that. And so that's a real limitation. Now, obviously virtually, you can reach a lot of people throughout social media and the internet. That's what I've been doing. And then of course we started our company, which also is it's not necessarily 100% carnivore, but we will certainly use carnivore when indicated. And I think healthcare is going to change. I mean, I think, as you pointed out, so many people are sick. We got 70% of our population is either obese or overweight, which is that's untenable. That is not something that we can persist in. And it's getting worse, by the way. Sure, everybody's going to be on their GLP-1 receptor agonists and, have their like Ozempic, but most of those people will eventually fail that, I believe. The drug companies want them to be on it for life, but most people won't tolerate it for life or be able to afford it. And then once they come off it, it's going to be a disaster anyway. So at some point, the shortcuts only last for a short period of time, and then you got to really do the real thing that needs to be done. And like I said, what about your staff? Does any of your staff do what you do, or do they think about that?
Not really. They get influenced. And if they do eat, most of the time they don't eat in front of me. But I don't judge them. I'm like, eat what you want. If you're going to eat real food. A chiropractor works with me, Dr. McCauley. When he started with me about a year and a half ago, and he came to my barn one day and we worked out, and I'm 15 years older. And I'm working out. He's holy, he can't keep up. And I was telling him about carnivore, and he goes, yeah, I've heard of that. So he went carnivore. And so he and I do it. And we're the only two guys. And he's lost 20 pounds. He's got his physical shape. He feels like he's gone back 20 years. So every day when he comes in, he brings lunch. He shows me his steak he's eaten. And the staff just look at us. They do eat more meat, I believe. They hear what we're saying. But it's a challenge. And it drives me nuts because even with my own family, I'm like, look, just eat meat. Just eat a steak. It's good. So but I have seen from the podcast that you guys are doing, the books, and just the movement. I've read a lot of books, and there's a lot of information that people are aware of now. So the awareness is growing in the last few years. I see that among my patients. They know it. They're aware of it. They understand the benefits. They just haven't seen the research. So I'm trying to get the research to them along with just basic. I don't understand how they can't do it. Just go home and eat meat. So stop. Just don't eat anything else. Just eat a lot of meat and you'll be fine. Simple, very simple.
Yeah, it's very simple. And like I said, I am actively working this year and finally have gotten a number of people willing to fund this. And we're going to get a number of carnivore studies done over the next year or so, which is really exciting. So we can, as healthcare providers say, hey, look, here's a study that shows that this actually works in a peer-reviewed medical journal, which right now we've been reliant upon anecdotes, albeit thousands and thousands. It's overwhelming, the number of anecdotes. You can't ignore that anymore, which you see the media. I saw Fox News had the guy that I think he looks like he's from the 1950s or something, like telling you how saturated fat and red meat are bad and it's blah, blah, blah. The same old worn out arguments that don't really hold up anymore. And so they're pushing back against it pretty hard. But again, the nice thing is we got the power of the media and social media and the internet that is, you can't, unless they turn off the internet. I don't think this thing is going to stop anytime soon. It's going to continue to grow and grow. And then again, obviously your patients look to you for advice and look up to you. And as someone who can provide an influence, it's, what happens is, my brother-in-law did that and he lost 50 pounds. You start seeing all these people that have heard of it. And generally, with rare exception, the results have been quite positive. And it's kind of fun time. Like I said, I've been grinding on this. I've been at the tip of the spear for years on this and taken just a tremendous amount of flack from every direction. And it's funny, the sort of thing, the assumptions that are made about me, which aren't true at all. But as far as with regard to chiropractic stuff, what other things outside of manipulation go into your practice?
We do more of a correction-based model. So when a patient comes in, we take x-rays of their structure and alignment. So based on what's normal, based on what they are, we do more correction-based rehab. Stuff in our office, we do decompression for the neck and low back because there's so many people. I think it was stated 37% of 20-year-olds and up have a disc problem. 37%. And once you get to 80, it's 80 or 90%. It's some ridiculous number. So we look at correction-based things in our office. And when we move to this new office, we just want to add more of that. We're going to do some vibration, postural work, especially for forward head, tech neck stuff. These kids are coming in and their head is so far forward with structural problems. If they don't fix the structure, they're not going to correct it through a diet, through a vitamin or a drug. And that's what they're trying. Or they go to the gym and they're not going to correct it that way. So we do more correction-based. We'll probably do some more things up there, add in massage, more pain relief type therapies that give short-term relief and then focus on, there's enough space up there. I want to have a functional gym and functional PT type stuff based on their x-rays and alignment. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not sure where this is all going to go over the next few years because it's 20,000 square feet. We're going to occupy about 5,000 or 6,000 and then build out everything inside based on what my goals are. And we'll see what happens. But the need for just structure and postural change is astronomical now. 20, 30 years ago, it wasn't as big. But these kids are coming in, the neck is, there's no curve in the neck. There's no lordosis in the neck. The head's forward. They're rounding the shoulders, and they're 10 because they're on the phone at age 3 and up. And it's affecting, and as posture gets affected, the nerve system gets affected. The nerve system gets affected. Everything gets affected. And that's been my focus. I don't want to steer away from that and just get in. That's why the diet part is in there, but it's hard to engage because there's so much stuff we're doing with the structure. But I think once we get up there, we're going to add these things in and have a way to influence every aspect because I'll be able to grow into that in that new location because there's such a massive need for it. It's sad. My kids grew up with chiropractic care, healthy eating, healthier. Now it's better. Wish I'd have known about this then. Exercise our whole life. All my kids were athletes. My kids were born into that belief of the body can be healthy without drugs and surgery. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's a doula. We want to have that part of the doula and midwives at our new location. But she helped deliver my third daughter's baby just a few weeks ago because the midwife didn't get there in time. So my kids are having babies in their own houses. It's just a belief system. We should be healthy without all the input of the pharmaceutical world and the medical world if we take care of ourselves. So the goal is, and that's an education thing. And of course, we need drugs and surgeries and things like that. But my gosh, if we can just take care of our body's going to function better for a lifetime. And that's been my focus in my office.
Yeah, certainly. I saw it. Somebody commented that you've got to take care of the engine. The engine is heart and lungs, more or less, but the chassis has also got to be taken care of. And a lot of people, a guy that I follow was talking about being able to sprint as an older person, being able to just get up and sprint. And if you can't sprint without tearing your hamstring off or pulling your Achilles, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with your physical structure that you and even at a later age. I still get out there and do sprints at 57, and I'm a big guy. I can still get out and get after it and run pretty damn fast. It's more than just because we've been talking about heart healthy this, heart healthy that, and not that should be ignored, but at the same time we don't take care of our structure very well. And like I said, when your car's out of alignment, you're driving off the road all the time. You're drifting into the other lanes and stuff like that. And so because I do see this, obviously everybody is constantly looking down at their phone. And so how do you reverse some of that? What are some of the things you do? They're just postural exercises, or can you strengthen your neck? How do you reverse that if it's already developed?
I've been studying and using a technique called chiropractic biophysics. So when we take an x-ray, the lateral x-ray of their neck, if their neck is forward, we'll measure that. And we have neck extension exercises. We have it's called a Deneroll or other devices they lay over to put the arc back in the neck, to pull the head back over the shoulders. Different types of traction devices to actually pull the curve back in place. At our new place, we're going to use vibe and head weights to actually restore and stimulate normal posture. And if patients can get aware, when they see their x-ray and they see how bad it is, or they start to see their spine degenerating at age 25, 30, 35 years old, they get concerned. And that gets them to start taking action. So The home tools we use are the tools we use in the office with decompression, traction type devices to actually pull, strengthen the muscles and pull the ligaments, to stretch the ligaments to have the head come back. We start to see the curve on the x-ray start to change. And within about a 3-month time, we'll take an x-ray and we'll see changes. And they see changes and they get excited, and then they just keep that up. It's like exercise. Once you get in shape, now you don't have to work out as hard, but just stay the course and you'll get the results. And one of the things, even with the neck, I think it was Roger Speary back in 1970 or 81. He was a Nobel Prize winner on brain research, and he found that spinal movement pushes 90% of the nutrition into the brain due to the cerebral spinal fluid. So we have to have 90% of the nutrition come from spinal movement. So we're losing that spinal movement. And then when we look at the diet part, if we're filling our diet with hydrogenated oils, the canola oils, the sugars, the artificial sweeteners, and we're taking medicine, we're getting vaccines, all these chemicals are getting bombarded in our system, that's also being pumped into the brain. And now we're dealing with brain things. The body is so complex that I don't know. I can't figure it out. I'm very simplistic in my thinking. Do the big 3: exercise, get a clean diet, keep your spine healthy, and do that hard and optimize that. And when you do that, you optimize your health. So when we take post x-rays and we see the neck straightening out, curving back into place, and hips balancing and curves in the lumbar spine straightening out, it's exciting. And especially in this world that most people sit all day long and they don't exercise. That's been fun.
Yeah, I stand all day long because I think the sitting is there's reasons that's problematic. You've been playing rugby for decades now, apparently. Any major injuries? Do you ever have any kind of major significant injuries playing? Because certainly there's potential for that.
I've had my share. I've had 2 rotator cuff tears. One was in rugby, one wasn't. The scapula that I broke riding my bike was my biggest one. But in rugby, broke my ribs a couple times, a few concussions, some scars on my body with stitches. Besides that, no. And the one time, it was crazy. The one time I broke my ribs, it was actually on my farm. I fell. I was back playing rugby in 2 weeks because my body repair system was just so optimal. Again, my wife thought I was crazy. I said, I got to play rugby. We're having our first match in 2 weeks. I got to get back. And I did it. But besides that, you get bumped and bruised. And people will say, Doc, aren't you worried? Your hands, aren't you worried about getting hurt? And again, I don't put that out there. I'm like, I understand the risk. I know how to play. And I think it was probably about 8 to 10 years into playing, my vision for rugby when I'm out on the field, that's why I'm playing fly half now. I can see it. I can see the field just flowing. It's easy. It's fun. And I make sure I try not to get hit hard. I pass it to the young guys. I let them score. So
one thing that's not appreciated in sports in general, by the average spectator, but you, obviously as an athlete, you realize this, but there is a mental side of the game. There is a processing. Have you noticed that Carnivore has made you clearer thinking in sports or even at work? Have you noticed any difference in your cognitive performance?
That's interesting you say that. I forgot all about that. It was probably a few months in, I started remembering back to when I was in elementary school. And I started remembering like some of my friends and my teachers' names and events that I haven't remembered ever in my life. And I'm like, what the heck is happening to me? It was mental clarity. And I can only say it was carnivore because I've never had it in my life until I went carnivore. So I saw that. Besides that, I didn't see any other major changes because I was pretty darn healthy at the time. This just took it over the top. This just gave me that boost that I feel like when I do play rugby or even in the office, when I adjust, we're very busy during the week. People ask me, when are you going to retire? Retire? This isn't hard. I can do this. Maybe retire from rugby. This fall, we're going down to Florida to play in the World Games, and we're trying to get a team from Life back in the day. So if any Life listeners are listener, or Dr. Baker, it's open to you too. It's a 50 and up thing. I played in the World Games a couple of years ago, and it's a blast. It's fun to play with guys 50 and up because I'm not used to doing that. But everything in my life, from my brain, my healing potential, my joints, my strength, my cardiovascular, my resting heart rate actually went down over the past when I did carnivore. which was interesting. And you would think, based on all that crap research out there, that eating meat and high fat is going to hurt your health, hurt your heart. It did the opposite. My heart's gotten healthier, stronger. I sleep good, wake up strong.
Yeah, the resting heart rate thing was interesting. 6 years ago, I actually conducted some online sort of, you call it research, and I had 100 people do carnivore, and we had them track their heart rate, and they all went down by about 8 to 10 beats per minute over a period of about 3 months. So for some reason, it seems to happen. And that generally is considered a positive adaptation when your resting heart rate decreases. There's occasions where it's a problem, but generally that's considered a good thing. We're getting close to time here, unfortunately. So let me just let you, if there's some place people want to go to find out more about what you're doing, or if they're local to where you're at in Pittsburgh, how do they find you?
If you put this in your notes, if they Google my name, they'll find me. We do a lot of stuff on social media, but the easiest way is type in Innate Life, IN the number 8, LIFE. That's the name of my clinic. We do most of our Facebook and Instagram with that. We do a lot of videos. We're getting into more education and promoting that way. I don't have anything online to sell or anything like that. I just ask that if somebody has some really good tips on how to integrate carnivore into an office like ours, send me an email. It's just drtressler@gmail.com. We can put that in the show notes. But if you look up Innate Life, you'll find me. I love to connect with people. It's always fun to go out and do workshops in the community, or I've taught in different colleges and speak out in the community. I love that stuff. I love motivating and getting people fired up to change their life. So if I can help in any way, just send me a note. I love to be help.
Maybe brisket in the waiting room. That might.
Well, our new office, there's a big kitchen, and Dr. McCauley said, "Hey, we got to have a grill up here. We're going to have a grill in the backyard. We're going to be grilling steaks at lunch every time." And I said, "Ooh," I said, that'd be a good thing." Because I have the cows, I have the sheep, my lamb and my beef. It's an unlimited supply for me. I just butchered up 2 cows last year, and patients are always asking, are like, "Are you selling?" And I'm like, "I can't." I said, "I'll need at least one for me." And I supply to my kids. My kids, I give them a lot of meat and eggs. I give them eggs and meat every week, so they have an unlimited supply. Yeah, that'd be an interesting beef jerky from Tressler's farm.
I'm jealous. I hopefully one day I'll be able to get a ranch and feed myself without having to rely on other folks. But Aaron, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. It's fun chatting about it. And if you see Paul McCartney, not the vegetarian beetle, but the rugby player, say hi.
I will. And I want to thank you for all you do. And the listeners out there, what you're doing, you don't know how far reaching it is. You're changing lives, you're saving lives by what you're doing. And that's why I just wanted to get on. I just want to get on to share my story. And hopefully it will inspire somebody. And hopefully this will go far within my community or patients, and they'll follow you, and we'll make a change in this world. And you're doing a great job, and you've changed my life, and I appreciate that.
Likewise, appreciate it. And absolutely, we're going to make changes. Thanks a bunch.